Thank you for jumping onto our call here to talk to Eaton about our partnership with Pine Cove and Eaton and what we've done for some of our customers. I'm Kyle Thompson. I'm account executive over here, and I'm going to kick it over here to Jordan for a quick introduction, then we'll go to Billy.
Hi, my name is Jordan Krippen. I'm a systems engineer with Pine Cove Consulting.
And Billy Stapleton, a partner development manager for Eaton.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you guys today just about Eaton and what we've done here at Pine Cove with Eaton. We've been a partner for, I believe, 8 or 9 years. We really enjoyed that partnership with Eaton. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, you probably know the exact time, but I want to say it's been 8 years, but we've been really excited with the products with Eaton, and we've had a lot of success and a lot of reliability. So I think it's been a great partnership for us.
Yep, I can absolutely echo what you're saying there, Kyle. Definitely one of our more trusted partners, especially in the Pacific Northwest region. Work with you and your team a heck of a lot and appreciate the partnership.
Well, let me kick us off maybe with just a quick icebreaker. Like, what's one myth about IT infrastructure that you guys run into that you're kind of sick of hearing?
I can start with one, and I'll stay in my lane, and then we'll maybe get over to Jordan. So with Eaton, you might know us a little bit more for power and power infrastructure. So one myth might be that you don't need a UPS because you have a generator somewhere on your site. And that's certainly not true. There's going to be some switch time between that generator kicking on and the power going out if you ever happen to have a power event. And you might be surprised how many people think, okay, I've got my generator here for my main data center. Maybe I have a UPS there too, but all this other stuff that's on the edge, there's a lot of things throughout the network that have power going to them. And if the power happens to go out to those, they cause a problem, even if it's just for a minute or two. Jordan, what do you think?
Oh, that's a hard one.
A myth.
Well, I tend to be the wireless guy, so I always get the one of, if you ever have a wireless problem, you just add more APs to it, and that'll fix the issue. Or, microwaves, more microwaves the better. That doesn't affect the wireless. And then a lot of them are just, why do we need to invest in infrastructure if we're just buying new wireless? Like, let's put all our money into endpoints, and why do we have to put it into switches and servers and firewalls and stuff like that? And so it all adds together to build together to allow more faster throughput, efficiency, more reliability, uptime and everything, and to prevent outages. And when you only upgrade one component of it, the rest will fail. And so a lot of times we've been working with customers and they forget the UPSs and we don't need that. We don't have any power outages. And then, down the road, they lose a whole couple closets, and that's a lot of equipment they have to replace now.
I think it's most interesting with customers that, we run into where they say, hey, I don't want to update my UPS. I just run it till it dies. And then when it dies and everything goes down, it's like, well, why is this not working? Can I get batteries quick? Can I get stuff overnighted? Can I pull stuff off Amazon or whatever they need to get going? And I think that's why we talk a lot about replacement cycles and why it's important to keep track of when you've bought something and when is a good time to replace it. I know with our UPSs, we kind of have a standard policy of we try not to run them more than 5 years. And with Eaton, we have great opportunities to add warranty that lasts that long if somebody wants to. The 3-year warranty out of the box is great, but if they want to go 5, that's phenomenal as well. But I think typically don't let people run more than 5 because you start getting those really annoying beeping noises that your batteries are dying or things aren't working, or heaven forbid, it just all goes down. And then it's a mad rush to try and replace it. So
that asset management is definitely an important part of it. And at Pine Cove, you guys, as you just mentioned, do a great job of helping your customers track that to make sure that they don't have that downtime that can cause real issues for them. Because even if it's just a network closet, if that's a network closet in a school district, and all of a sudden you have, a whole wing of classrooms with kids that can't get on Wi-Fi. Of course, we know everything's on Chromebooks these days. You can be putting a big dent in a kid's school day just by one UPS having its batteries run out in the closet and power going out for a little bit.
So, Billy, I know we're talking a lot about UPSs and obviously the role that batteries play. And Eaton's much more than just batteries and UPSs. We have PDUs and racks and enclosures. Maybe you could tell us a little about what a PDU is and what things we should be looking for in the IT closet beyond just the batteries.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Jordan's mentioned here, in the IT closet, there are access points, switches. There's plenty of other IT equipment. Eaton, we've been talking about power. We're a power company, but we do much more than that. As Kyle just mentioned, we have the racks, PDUs, UPSs, and what does that what all does that entail? You're going to need something to put all of this equipment, whether it be in your standard IDF network closet, whether it's going into your main data center room, could be a wall-mounted rack, could be a floor-standing rack, could be a two-post rack, and that's something that we can all work together to provide and help identify the right solution. You also need something to plug it into, and that's where those PDUs are going to come into play. And one of the more sought-after features on those are managed PDUs, so that central IT maybe can take a look and see what's going on at building A when they're over here at their main headquarters location, and manage what's going on with specific devices. For instance, a hung switch, you can turn an outlet on and off, or schedule outlets to be turned on and off at a certain time of night so that you're clearing the cache on those each day. And of course, that PDU is plugged into the UPS, providing you that main point of protection from an initial power outage. And whether you have a generator or not, it's at least going to give you some runtime. Many power outages are just short blips. You need it to cover you for a couple minutes. And if the UPS can do that, great. If you want a lot more runtime, well, that's possible as well. In addition to some of those main components there, Eaton and Pine Cove, where we're able to offer the additional peripherals to go with it. If you need cooling in those closets, that's something that's often overlooked. A lot of equipment can be application that maybe it wasn't necessarily designed for and doesn't have proper cooling. So cooling solutions through Pine Cove and Eaton are something that we're able to work with customers and identify those needs as well to prevent other kinds of issues, such as overheating. Everything else might be working just fine, but it's kicking out some heat, and you want to make sure that everything is cooled down there. So certainly much more to Eaton than just UPSs. And I think a good place to go from there is software, because when you have all of these other things going on, going back to central management, you want a way to have a single pane of glass to see what's going on with all of these devices throughout your district, throughout your building. If you're a bigger enterprise and have assets around the country, it's a great benefit to be able to have a single point of contact, if you will, to look and see what's going on. And we have that with our Brightlayer software suite, which Pine Cove is actively talking with several customers about.
Yeah, for sure. I know, Jordan, on our side, we typically run with a few different models. I think our tried and true bread and butter is usually that 5PX line. But when you've used maybe, say the 9PX line, what has been your experience in terms of, setting up maybe more of a custom configuration UPS versus, an off-the-shelf one?
Well, it's definitely more unique. It takes more research and planning than just doing the standard ones, that'll work in a standard outlet. And, going with the 9PX models that are much larger, much heavier. My back can attest to that. Do they go into a regular, they go into the wall, on different circuits? Are they 20 amp plugs, 30 amp plugs? Are we looking at hardwiring that into a breaker box with an electrician? I mean, there's a lot more factors that go into it. And then off of that, PDUs as well, with different, so many different outlet types for different types of switches, firewalls, servers, make sure we have enough outlets for the current equipment. And then do we have enough outlets for future, for the next 5 years, if they were to downscale or upscale their closets or move equipment around or buy new equipment, are they standard 515 plugs, 520 plugs? There's a lot of factors that go into planning that whole thing for 5PX and 9PX. The 9PXs are a lot bigger and beefier, but they take a little more work.
Jordan's got quite a bit of knowledge around our product line, so we're happy to support them. But Pine Cove definitely knows what they're doing in the partnership here with Eaton.
Well, and Jordan, you said a whole lot of acronyms that I'm not always familiar with. 20 amp, 15 amp. When customers approach you and say, "Hey, I think I can build this out on my own," what is your typical response to them in terms of, "Hey, you're good to go," or here's the questions you should be asking yourself, or do you recommend working with a service provider every time to make sure it's built correctly?
Yeah, one of the biggest, I would say, things that are overlooked are, for certain locations, the UPSs are either undersized or they don't have the correct type of UPS. So they have more of a commercial UPS than an enterprise unit, more like a desktop one that has a bunch of switches plugged into it that, will help in a quick blip maybe, but there's no long-term uptime. We don't have 30 minutes to an hour for uptime for prolonged outages, or they just do one UPS for an entire 3 racks of equipment. And so we have a couple PDUs off of that, but now our runtime or uptime is 5 minutes, And so how can we add in then redundancy so that if one UPS fails, we don't lose the entire closet? Can we distribute that load with PDUs and redundant power to servers and such? So if we lose one UPS, everything's still up, and then we'd have no downtime while we're getting a replacement unit sent out to us or under warranty or something like that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Space in the rack, if it's going in the rack, is it going behind the rack, length of cable, number of outlets, types of outlets, the amount of equipment, and then the equipment that's in there, what's its power draw for switches? Is it a PoE switch or a non-PoE switch? Does it have a standard 320 watts switch, or is it 1440, or is it even more? And so those switches are going to pull more power. And, for now we have so many things pulling PoE. We have wireless, we have cameras, we have phones, they have speakers, we have light bars and stuff. Such demand for PoE that we also make sure that we don't just get a switch high PoE. We need a UPS that can also be the equivalent to keep that online if the power goes out and everything. It happens to be apple to apples, switches to UPSs for power. It can't just be, let's take 10 switches and put it into one UPS and fingers crossed it'll keep things going.
Yeah, Billy, maybe you can talk a little bit about like what Eaton can provide, both some of the stuff you provide at Pine Cove to help us be effective, but maybe stuff you also provide customers, the end user, in terms of things that they can, help them be prepared for their either switching to Eaton or, buying a new system or preparing for a new system.
Jordan just mentioned is the knowledge that you have of your customers and the partnership with Pine Cove is huge in understanding the customer environment. Because once we have all of that information, there's a wide variety of options available to make sure we're getting the right solutions in place for a customer, whether that's, as you might have mentioned, normal, we'll say your standard 5PX offering, or if you need something a little bit robust like a 9PX, if you're in an area that has more power outages or dirty power. From the total solution standpoint, I think you guys do a really great job of finding those points in a customer's infrastructure where there might be gaps, pointing those out to us. We bring in our engineering team to help really augment you. I'm not an engineer. Don't know as much as Jordan here, but bring in our engineering team to make sure all those gaps are filled, to prevent that downtime, to prevent those issues that might be caused from extra PoE draw for future proofing, because that is a big thing at least on our minds these days, and questions that we ask is, hey, you just bought this switch that can potentially draw 90 watts of PoE, not that we see a lot of people doing it, but 90 watts per port. You realize if you fill this switch up, this isn't going to work on your UPS. You're going to overdraw it, trip your breaker, and someone's going to have a bad day there. So identifying those points and then allowing us to say, okay, yes, we have XYZ options available, whether that be a 9PX UPS, a 5PX, a certain type of PDU. A good safeguard for some of this is our Brightlayer software, which within it, if you're monitoring managed PDUs, it will tell you if you're getting close to overloading that PDU. It'll actively alert you, hey, this is at 90% power draw. You need to see what is going on in this situation. Or if you have some type of setup with, say, A and B redundancy, and somebody wasn't paying attention and thought that the power situation was fine in that room, but they didn't balance those PDUs equally. One PDU goes down, the other one doesn't have enough capacity to run the full load in a rack, for instance. All of a sudden that entire rack goes down. So something like our Brightlayer software suite with our, we call it DITPM, lots of nice acronyms here, software, is something to help in proactively preventing any of the issues that could come with overloading a circuit, or in just seeing in general what's going on with that power environment.
If you had a customer saying, hey, what should I look for in the tech company I'm trying to partner with for my power needs, what are maybe some of the questions you'd tell them to ask that company?
So from our perspective, right, and like with Pine Cove, we want folks that are going to be responsive and willing to learn, but also able to partner with us and lean on us, bring us in to help your customers build out the solution, right? We know not everybody can be an expert on everything. Jordan extremely knowledgeable on a lot of things, but there are times when questions are going to pop up and we're going to need Pine Cove to rely on some of our engineers. So having partners and solutions providers like yourselves that have trust in their manufacturing partnerships, I think is something that end users should look for when they're asking around or considering working with a company.
And the other nice thing with our partnership is, I'll easily admit I don't know everything. I'm still learning, and there's a lot I need to learn. But if there are situations that I don't know this type of outlet, I don't know this type of wattage, I can easily rely on Billy and their team to help me build out the correct design for that location, or say, this is the unique situation we have. What are some options that we can plan around this? This is out of the norm of what we typically do. And so it's nice having that reassurance that if I do have questions, I can reach out to them directly and get a quick response.
Yeah, I think just to add to those things, I think the biggest thing, I'm going to go back to just sort of the life cycle management as you're trying to find a provider, whether that's both manufacturer and reseller, because there's definitely a hand holding there. You can find a great manufacturer, maybe not the right reseller, or vice versa. I think that the biggest question you should be asking is who's going to help me be able to forecast and maintain my equipment correctly, right? And I think the maintenance part is key. And everyone can kind of sell you something quick and get you something that might work to start with, but have they really talked to you about your power management needs over time? Jordan, you mentioned everything's going to PoE. You need digital clocks and with audio enhancement and just all these other things that didn't require PoE in the past that now do. Have you forecasted for that? Are your rooms going to change in your buildings? And have you really planned and prepared for that? So hopefully it's questions that you're asking your partnerships, your resellers and your manufacturers. Are they capable of doing that? And are they actually doing that for you? What's one upgrade that the IT leaders should be investing in? What's the best bang for their buck with Eaton? It's maybe something that they're not commonly purchasing that they should be paying attention to.
So something that they should be paying attention to, but aren't commonly purchasing, is that software aspect, monitoring software. It brings in their power infrastructure into a single pane of glass to really work with what a lot of companies or districts or entities have limited resources in IT these days. And being able to have a single pane of glass to monitor potentially widely distributed power environment is very important, and we're starting to see that more, make people more aware of it. And when we talk about it, a lot of equipment gets put in a lot of closets, and then it's managed on a spreadsheet somewhere, or you don't know something's going on until something's beeping. So that software aspect with our Brightlayer software, a single pane of glass, allowing you for more streamlined management of your power assets throughout your entire environment, is very important and often overlooked.
And the other big benefits of that software is it helps you be proactive instead of reactive, where, you redo your UPSs every 5 years, but then you never go into that closet to check it again until, the internet's out in that wing of the school. But with the software and everything, you can be proactive and say, oh, that internal battery died. Let me get a replacement before we have an outage, and to help prevent downtime outages, because we know how important internet is in every business, every school and everything. And, even just 5 minutes of no internet causes a big outage for a lot of people. So how best can we be proactive and staying ahead of that and making sure we have little to no outages, keep our uptime up?
That's awesome. Cool. What's the worst infrastructure advice you've ever been given or heard?
That you don't need a UPS, that you don't need a power plan, that you don't need to take those things into consideration. You're just going to plug it into the wall and it's going to work.
I'm just going to second that one.
Those are my biggest ones. I don't need a UPS.
It's not important, right?
They believe they have pretty good clean power. They don't get regular reoccurring outages or blips and anything. So they think they're safe. And then you just spent $200,000 on new switches. And then within 6 months, you have a major outage. And hey, we just lost 50 grand worth of switches because I didn't have any UPSs on it because I thought we were safe. So it's something that's easy overlooked.
If you don't mind how easy it is to overlook, I won't say who, but we have another company out there who their core business is UPSs. That's what they do. So you would think someone like that would have a UPS on the main server for their building, and they for whatever reason didn't, and they had about a 30-second power blip one day, and it took them 6 hours to restore the server. So they lost an entire day of business because their central server went down over a little 30-second power blip. They had UPSs on their desktop, so the desktop didn't go down. Laptops had batteries, so that wasn't a problem. They had the network on UPS power, so the network didn't go down. But for whatever reason, that one server rack was overlooked. That caused them a day of big headaches. That's one of those areas where I think you guys do a great job of identifying some of those places where, hey, something's missing here. So it can be easily overlooked, and having reliable folks like Pine Cove as a company, particularly Kyle and Jordan, really help to make sure others don't end up with those kinds of headaches.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. What's your prediction for power strategy for 2026? What's the future hold for power? My prediction is going to be more and more PoE. Things are going to keep requiring more and more power. And I think that if you're not planning for your power needs, you might have a UPS that might have, let's say, 30 minutes or an hour runtime, and that's okay right now. And if you're not preparing for it, it might only end up being 10 minutes next year because everything is just drawing more and more power. That's my prediction.
I'd say my prediction along the same lines is getting closer to that 99% uptime that every businesses require and schools require. And we go into like hospitals and stuff like that, they can't afford downtime, and it's power is going to be a big thing, and it's something that we have to make sure that is almost to 100%. We have to rely on it and make sure that it is reliable and 100%, and that it's something that we need to invest more time into and more money into.
Absolutely. And my prediction can be very similar to Kyle here, is we're going to start seeing more and more power both at the data center and in network closets, edge locations. Whether you're talking AI and not necessarily talking, Meta or Google, but you're going to start seeing local businesses, school districts, other folks with on-prem AI solutions. Those require a lot of power. That's going to require you to really take a look at what's going on in your server room. And then when you get to the network closet, you're looking at more and more of that PoE solution power draw. You're going to be looking at not only is my IT equipment in there adequate, do I have to upgrade the IT equipment, not just for runtime, but one, am I going to be overdrawing it? Two, do I have the power infrastructure physically in place to support the potential upgrades that I'm going to be needing? So am I going to be having to bring in an electrician and run a new circuit into this closet over here, or upgrade a panel at a main data center? So there's going to be a lot of conversations around how much more power is going to be used by a variety of different devices out there, whether it's a standard server, an AI server, PoE switches, PoE plus, adding additional access points to get the wireless signals further out there and stronger across a distributed and wide campus potentially. That's all going to have to be taken into account to ensure that 99 to 100% uptime that is expected, I think, at this point of everybody. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but internet goes down here at my house. I know it in 30 seconds because my kids are saying, oh, hey, my stream went down. My whatever I was watching, went offline. So I go, okay, guys, give it a minute. Let's let the router reboot here.
Totally. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on, and it's been a good discussion about power. And we recommend that anybody that has any power needs, reach out to Pine Cove. You can reach out to just sales@pinecc.com or your specific account rep. Get your power questions answered. And when we don't know the right answer, we got Billy and his team to fall back on and make sure we get you the right answer. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Jordan.